Welcome. I'm Farnoosh Torabi. You may recognize me from the Today Show as a contributor to Money Magazine and the host of the So Money podcast. Today, I'm happy to be sitting with a longtime friend of mine, Frank Curzio, founder and CEO of Curzio Research. Frank and I spent some formative years together at TheStreet.com, and as colleagues, we hosted segments together where Frank would break down his favorite investment strategies and ideas, and his enthusiasm was always contagious. I'm sure you'll see what I mean in a minute. And if I can say this about anyone, it's certainly true of Frank. He's seen it all in his 25-year career. So it definitely piqued my interest when he said he wanted to talk to me about an idea that he calls one of the most revolutionary he's ever come across, the biggest thing he's ever seen. An idea, he told me, he's betting everything on. And I don't mean that metaphorically. Frank is so convinced this is the single greatest investment idea in the world right now, he's betting the future of his entire firm on it. Not just its name, not just its reputation, its bank account. And best of all for you is that Frank is going to share that idea today, right now, including exactly how you can participate alongside him. The upside? Not 5x, not even 10x, life-changing. Interested? I know I am. Frank, welcome. So happy to see you again.
It's great to see you too, Farnoosh.
Okay, so let's get right to it.
Okay, love to.
We've been friends for, I don't know, like a decade at least, and I've seen you get excited about investment ideas, but I've never seen you get this excited.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack here, but it really breaks down into two key parts. The first thing I want to talk about is how I arrived at the big breakthrough. And it really is a big breakthrough. A lot of people will find this hard to believe, but the opportunity I'm going to talk about literally didn't exist until very recently. Already it's transformed my entire operation. It's been my primary focus over the past 5-6 months. And like you said, I'm betting everything on it. That's how much I believe in it. And as you know, I've put my own money into a lot of my ideas over the past few years. And I tend to make out pretty well. One of the more recent ones was a tiny company called Hive Blockchain, which made me personally over 1,100%. That's one of the perks of spending a lifetime in this business. You grow a huge network that can tap into and find so many great ideas. I've seen a lot of deals, but nothing like the one we're going to talk about today. Powerful enough to disrupt financial markets for the first time in over 100 years. And to show I'm not talking out of my you-know-what, I've never once, ever put this much on the line. So I want to talk about that first, the big breakthrough. The second part is how our viewers can participate in the idea, because that's why I'm in this business. As you know, if I wanted to, I could sit at home, make my own trades, live a pretty sweet life with my wife, 2 beautiful daughters. But I do this because I'm passionate about it, passionate about helping others become investors and better investors. I'm not just talking about teaching investors how to make money. We see it all the time. But also teach them more important things like risk management. Because nobody's going to tell you this, but I don't care how smart you are, even the best. If you're looking at Buffett, Icahn, they're going to get it wrong sometimes. We all do. Of course, you have to be right more than I'm wrong, or would have been put out of business a long time ago. But I'm passionate about passing down the things I've learned to individual investors. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, definitely. My first job in this field was at Money Magazine, very little money. Probably unpaid, factoring in inflation, but I didn't care. I jumped at the opportunity. I knew this is, what I wanted to do with my life. I had sort of the foresight, and I knew that I wanted to help people succeed financially. So I totally get this.
Yeah, and for me, as you know, it goes back even further because my late dad was a financial newsletter writer. I mean, you want to talk about unpaid? My job was to stuff envelopes and lick stamps on the newsletter he mailed out every month. We're talking about back in the 1980s when financial newsletters were being delivered through the mail. And believe it or not, he was a big shot back then. I mean, a lot of people think their dad's a big shot. My dad was actually a big shot. He won the Wall Street Journal stock picking contest 6 years in a row, which was a record. NBC Dateline called him one of the best analysts in the world. He was on CNBC and Bloomberg, Fox all the time. I mean, it was pretty cool. He just take me to New York City to introduce me to all the anchors. Many of those anchors still work on the networks today. So he had a lot of readers, which I guess was kind of good and bad. It was good because he had a successful business, but bad because, had to lick a lot of stamps.
You know what, though? You paid your dues. So let's start with the breakthrough, the thing that changed everything for the guy who spent his entire life doing this. Tell us.
Okay. This is going to sound like an odd question, but I want you to bear with me.
All right.
What's your favorite movie?
All right. That's a hard question. I would say one of my favorite movies is Edward Scissorhands.
All right, really, what's your favorite movie?
I'm being very serious.
Is that really your favorite movie? All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's fine, because it's a classic. Now, what if I told you you could own a stake in Edward Scissorhands? And I don't mean buying shares of Viacom or whoever company produced it. I mean owning an actual stake in the movie. And let's say it made $50 million. I mean, I really have no idea how much it made. Probably made a lot more than that. But you can get a piece of that movie now.
That would be amazing. I know I've personally spent a lot of money on that movie, so I know it's been successful.
Today, for the first time, that's possible. And not with Edward Scissorhands, it's out already, but with a number of movies that could become the next Edward Scissorhands, or the next Rocky, the next Star Wars. I know you're starting to do a little stand-up comedy, and I saw your show recently, and I'm not just saying this, but it was actually very, very good.
Thank you.
But what if you could own a stake in an upcoming comedian's career, or even an actor's career, or a musician's career?
Well, I don't know about, buying a stake in my act, not currently, but yeah, I mean, the next Johnny Depp, the next, I'd love to invest in some female comedians. I think that's incredible.
And you can keep going. What about art? Would you want a piece of a famous painting that could be auctioned off for millions, tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars?
Hey, why not? Sign me up.
Well, now you can do that too. In fact, it just happened. A number of individual investors, for the first time ever, were able to buy a stake in a famous Andy Warhol painting. He sold it at auction for over $5 million. And you live in New York.
Yeah.
How'd you like to own a piece of the most prestigious Manhattan real estate? Or even some of the trendy condos being built in Greenpoint?
Sounds really good. For some people, that's the only way to get in.
Yeah, and Fanush, I can go on and on, but I'm pretty sure our viewers get the point here. What I'm talking about is a revolution in investing for the individual investor, a way for you, me, the people watching this right now, to invest in some of the world's most exciting and valuable assets. Assets that, before today, were basically reserved only for investment banks, hedge funds, rich folks with connections. You have to have $3, $5 million in a Goldman Sachs account. So never in my life have individual investors been able to own skyscrapers or movie rights. Never. And the kicker is, these non-traditional assets are usually the best place to put your money. I mean, take art, for example. Far outperformed stocks, at least over the last year, as it often does. Real estate, outside of a short period during the credit crisis, I mean, it's been an amazing investment. So there are two parts to this. I want to talk about part one first, the incredible new asset that's making this possible. This literally didn't exist 2 years ago. And part two is the opportunity our viewers have today. How they can use this asset class to potentially make a lot of money, an investment that was pretty much off limits. A true insider's club, one that's turned countless men and women into millionaires, mega millionaires, and believe it or not, even billionaires. And those of you who follow my work, you know those are terms I don't use often. Farnoosh, you know what we're talking about here, so you know exactly what I mean.
You know I wouldn't be here otherwise. I mean, this truly sounds like you are on the brink of something incredible. You're democratizing a system, and I'm excited. I'm in. Tell me more.
Well, I bet most people watching this right now have no idea this new asset exists. I mean, some people might. And if you do, you already know I'm not exaggerating here. I mean, this isn't the next big thing. It's the thing.
All right, I want to jump ahead a little bit because I do know what you're talking about. I agree. I bet a very small number of people watching this will have heard about what we're going to share today. But that's how you make serious money in this world. And that is one of the things I really love about you, Frank. You're not afraid to be first. For example, I remember 5 years ago, you were writing about marijuana stocks. And that was just after the first state, Colorado, approved marijuana for recreational use. And now, of course, people are all over that trend today. But back then, you could have bought many of those stocks for peanuts compared to what they trade for now. Last time I was here with you on set, you were talking about cryptocurrencies. Cryptos had just experienced this massive move. People were ecstatic about the idea of a completely decentralized, anonymous currency, the end of government oversight. But you had a different approach to crypto investing. I remember you wanted regulation. You had demonstrated why regulation would be great for cryptos. You were one of the first people I know that said that, and you said it right to my face and to anyone else who'd listen. Without regulation, this industry is going to die on the vine. This is when people were predicting $1 million Bitcoin. But now, of course, we're seeing that. The industry has collapsed. So I guess all this to say, way to go.
Yeah, well, thanks. I've been fortunate. I wouldn't say I wasn't afraid. It's just you really have to do the research behind it. And it is a little scary when you're first to the party, but it's nice to be ahead of a lot of those trends. And I think the big reason, for that is because I'm fortunate to have a really, really good network, which is something you could identify with. You know, I've had over 1,000 guests on my Wall Street Unplugged podcast over the past 10 years, including stock experts, leading economists, doctors, heads of states, billionaires, a lot of people you see on CNBC and Bloomberg, basically all the time. And another reason is I'm not biased when it comes to investing. And I've covered every investment under the sun, from mining firms to tech startups, promising biotech companies using immunotherapy and gene editing to treat cancer, and shale oil companies. But that's not what this is about. What I want to show people today is an entirely new way to invest, an entirely new asset class. And this isn't about a particular sector or an industry. It's not about technology, gold, real estate, oil, collectibles, royalty companies, whatever. This isn't even a stock, bond, or option contract, or any kind of traditional asset. One expert called this new asset unlimited. And that's one of the mild things that was said about it. Another has said this new asset will give birth to a quadrillion-dollar market. And I know that sounds crazy, but let me put that into some context. As of last year, the total market cap of the US stock market was $30 trillion. So we're talking about a potential market 30 times that size. I'm not sure I'd go quite as far as quadrillion dollars, but you know what? It's not out of the question. Now, here's the most incredible part. When I bring this up at conferences, when I'm talking to my friends who are CEOs, run big businesses, nobody has a clue what I'm talking about. When I actually take the time to sit down and explain it to them, I'm not trying to convince them of anything. I mean, we're research analysts. We want them to poke holes in our thesis. So I want them to see, Frank, what's wrong? What's wrong with this idea? But you know what? When I explain it to them, they can't really find anything that's wrong with it. And if I'm done explaining, they'll have the same reaction. That, wow, this is pretty incredible.
So I have to ask, how did you get to this point? How did this end up consuming your life like it is now?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. And cryptos, and to be clear, when we talk about cryptos, I'm not talking about specifically about cryptocurrencies, but that was the beginning. I launched a newsletter focused on crypto investing just after the bubble burst. Everyone had been hyping up Bitcoin, like you said earlier, $1 million predictions and stuff like that. But a lot of folks, unfortunately, got burned. So for us, I wanted to bring some rationality back to it and see if these assets, if people are putting their money into it, what are they actually worth? So I spent a lot of time researching thousands of these, researching the industry, the offerings, the ideas behind the coins. And I have to tell you, most of it is complete garbage.
Yeah, I've heard ICOs described as the crypto version of crowdfunding.
Exactly. I mean, I quickly realized these guys, they don't need anything to raise this money. They're raising tens of millions of dollars without having any operating business, any company, just basically an idea on a cocktail napkin. So they don't have a management team yet or even headquarters. And, I'm not sure how to value that. And what if they decide that, hey, you know what, this isn't going to work or we can't follow through that idea? You know what? Nothing. You're screwed. You just took all of your money. And you know what? There's nothing you can do about it. But the funny thing, even if these companies were successful and managed to convince companies, say like Microsoft, Google, to be their partners, maybe even got bought out by one of these companies one day, as an investor in these coins, that means little to you since they're not backed by anything. They're not backed by any assets. They're not like stocks that, you and I used to invest in where you actually own equity. So it's similar to when Facebook bought Oculus Rift, right? The virtual reality giant. I think they paid over $2 billion for it in 2014. So many people thought they were investing in Oculus, and they did it through Kickstarter, the crowdfunding website. But they didn't own any equity in Oculus. They did not get a piece of that $2 billion. In return for the investment, Oculus provided you with a free virtual reality headset, probably put an Oculus sticker on it, pat you on the butt and say, hey, thank you, see you later. That's basically the cryptocurrency market. But as frustrating as it was, the more I dug in, the more I learned, I discovered an incredible alternative, an entirely new marketplace. I tell everyone it reminds me of Uber. I mean, for decades growing up in New York, like us, we all took taxis. We had no idea for decades that they were overcharging us or that there could be a much better alternative. And what happened? Uber came along. You have a service that's much cheaper, much safer since you know exactly who's picking you up. It's easier where you can call your Uber driver to tell him exactly where you are, and it's already paid for through your app. So you don't have someone hanging on your door, which you and I can identify where you're paying them and they're waiting to get in your cab. So it's just a service that made sense from every single perspective. And that's why it disrupted an entire industry. That's what I'm talking about here. A tradable asset that has all the benefits of cryptos: 24/7 trading, global access, the ability to invest in virtually anything. But unlike cryptos, where you own nothing, and your investment, if basically you can call it that, is completely unprotected, with this new asset, you can actually own equity. You have a real stake in a real thing.
So don't bite. Is this crypto 2.0?
No, I'm glad
For lack of a better term?
No, and I'm glad you said that. And I don't want anyone to confuse this with cryptos. It's not a cryptocurrency at all. I'll explain more in a little bit, but because of this advancement, there's a good chance the vast majority of cryptos in the market, they're probably not even going to exist a few years from now.
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah, listen, I'm not the only one who thinks so. I mean, Henry James, the co-founder of the investment bank FinCross International, says this new market will dwarf the crypto market. But that's just peanuts in the long run. You see, with this new asset, you can invest in virtually any asset. When you start adding up what that means and what it really means.
Yeah, huge potential.
Exactly. I mean, here's the numbers. The market for art is $60 billion. The market for video games and movies is $200 billion. Here's where things get interesting. Gold, $6 trillion. Currencies, $7 trillion. U.S. stocks we mentioned earlier, $30 trillion. Corporate debt, $80 trillion. Real estate, $200 trillion in global assets. All of that is on the table. In fact, just recently, JP Morgan, largest bank in the world, biggest customers in the world, launched its own asset that will allow its biggest clients to move large sums of money quicker and safer. I'm sure a lot of the other banks are going to follow, which is a pretty big deal considering the top 10 banks in the world hold over 30 trillion assets, and JP Morgan alone moves over $1 trillion assets per day. IBM also just announced a groundbreaking deal. It plans to unlock the $80 trillion in corporate bonds and allow individual investors like you and me to buy and sell pieces of corporate bonds as easily as buying and selling stocks. So we're talking about a market that has nearly tripled in value over the past 10 years, yet it's a market that until now was really difficult for most individual investors, regular folks, to invest in.
So this begs the question, what has changed? How is this all possible now when this wasn't actually possible years ago?
Yeah, so I'm sure most people watching this have heard of blockchain. And don't worry, don't get bogged down with it because frankly, you don't really have to know anything about it to make money on this idea. You just have to understand that it's because of the blockchain that this new asset class exists. They're called security tokens. The key word there isn't token. That's what everybody focuses on. I blame the cryptomania for that. The key word here is security. In fact, as we're talking here today, the industry is in the process of scrapping the term security token for a much better name, and they're going to call it digital securities. So you might see it called both ways, different places. Either way, these are at the very core shares in an asset, very similar to stocks. The biggest difference is instead of trading on the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, they're going to trade on new digital security exchanges. That's all it is. That's all you really need to know. So for the rest of this discussion, whenever you hear security token or digital security, just think stock. Because this is pretty much a new stock market. That's why huge investment banks are getting involved. You look at Merrill Lynch, for example, recently signed on as a corporate member of the Security Token Academy. Fidelity recently spun off a company called Fidelity Digital Assets. Even the NASDAQ is, and to quote one article, looking at gate crashing this industry. The London Stock Exchange and the Swiss Stock Exchange are doing the same thing. So one of the top lawyers in this space, a woman I worked with in creating this deal for viewers, and we had a great time, but recently told my podcast audience, over the past 4 months, there's been an absolute flood of interest in this space. And let me tell you something. These companies, they're not going all in on this to just make profits. They're getting into this industry because they have to. Because this new market threatens their very foundation they were built on over 100 years ago. Now, here's the key difference. Almost anyone, anywhere, can trade security tokens. And that's huge. Many of our viewers will remember the huge boom in China 10, 15 years ago. There are a few Chinese companies listed in America, but the best names traded on major exchanges like the Shanghai. And by and large, U.S. investors were kind of shut out of the biggest moves in many of those stocks, but not with security tokens. This market also trades around the clock, 24/7. But most importantly, for our viewers, for everyone out there that's watching this, is that any business, any asset will have the ability to trade on the security token market. And I've said that a bunch of times today, and I'm going to continue to say it. But I've talked about buying shares of an Andy Warhol painting, real estate, movie rights. But you could also add to that traditional business or parts of businesses.
What do you mean parts of businesses?
Well, for example, there's a NASDAQ listed biotech company. It's called Agenus that just created a security token for one of its most promising immunotherapy drugs. So you could actually buy shares of Agenus on the NASDAQ, or you can buy a direct stake in this single drug, a drug that's part of a class of drugs that generated over $15 billion last year. As you know, I have a lot of connections in the resource space. I have no doubt many of these companies are going to follow the same model. For example, let's say a gold company owns 10 mines in 10 different regions, which is very common. But its signature asset is one of the biggest producing gold mines in the world. Through security tokens, what's called tokenization, the owner of that mine, board of directors, whoever controls that asset, that interest, can sell a portion of their most prized asset to individual investors. So in other words, not only do security tokens allow you to invest in promising assets once reserved for the elite, they also allow you to invest in traditional companies in untraditional ways. And here's the kicker. We've been talking a lot about big assets, companies, ideas, concepts that most people are familiar with. What about the companies you can't invest in yet? If you look at it, Farnish, 90% of businesses in the world are what they're basically called SMEs, small, medium enterprises. They're not public, they're not listed on any exchange, but they make up virtually the entire economy. Security tokens open up that entire world for individual investors. I can keep going on and on about security tokens here. In fact, I plan to devote most, if not all, my research in the token space to this new asset class. So you expect a ton of investment ideas from me in the future. I created a dedicated website that collects all the most interesting and relevant news about developments in the space, as well as some of the investments you can make right now if you want to. It's a totally free resource, not charging anything for it. Been posting on it for, I'd say 3 to 6 months now. And it's kind of funny because 6 months ago, there was just a few stories about companies using tokenization as a way to sell a portion of its assets to individual investors. But over the past few months, it's been interesting. Now, every single week, more and more stories are being written about how major companies are jumping into this incredible market, how they're raising money now, right now, through tokenization. It's amazing how fast this trend is developing. To be honest with you, it's a lot faster than I originally thought. So tokenization it's not some crazy idea, Farnish. It's not like flying cars or having a tourism rocket ship that's going to take you and me to the moon.
We're going to get there, too.
Yeah, we'll get there, and that's the point. It's a trend that's maybe decades away from being realized. Tokenization, it's here. It's happening right now. And almost all of what I said here today, you'll find cited on our dedicated website. Again, this isn't me getting all amped up on a hot new idea. This is a revolution in investing. And press from all over the world is finally starting to catch wind of it. Like the invention of the first car, the creation of the internet. I truly believe it's a world-dominating idea. When it comes to financial markets, I've never been so sure of anything in my life. Like I said earlier, it just reminds me of Uber. It makes sense on every single level you could possibly think of. That's why I'm betting my entire business on it.
Right. So about that's a huge risk. Tell me about that. Explain it.
Okay. So in the very beginning of this video, I said that there were two parts of the story. Security tokens, digital securities. That's the vehicle, like stocks or bonds or option contracts. It's what they allow you to do, the way they allow you to invest, and what you can invest in. That makes them pretty exciting.
Right. So on the one hand, you've got this entirely new asset class and this entirely new market forming. It's a market that could become more valuable, more powerful than the stock, bond, precious metals, currency, real estate markets, all combined.
Think about that, because I think this market's going to dwarf anything we've ever seen.
And so you're participating in this growth by getting in now, but it's the how, right? I mean, how do you leverage this huge potential? What's the opportunity really?
Exactly. And that's part two. That's why, you know what, I'm glad you're here. Because you and I, we're in a very unique position to understand and explain an investment opportunity that I would say the vast majority of people have been locked out of. I'm talking about a truly exclusive club. An investment that has literally turned guys sleeping on the sofas in their friends' houses, I'm not kidding, into mega millionaires. I know this is true. I've seen it happen more than once. And through security tokens, I've just created a way for anyone watching this right now to get a piece of that.
All right, tell us about it.
Okay, what I'm offering today is a chance to not only get on the ground floor of the security token market through a private deal I've arranged myself, but to get in on the ground floor one of the most, if not the most, scalable, high-margin businesses in the world.
You know, most people will hear that and think, okay, he's about to tell us about some sort of like hot new technology or something like that. This sounds too good to be true.
You're right. When most people think about making huge gains in traditional securities, they think of buying stocks in high-tech startups or companies on the verge of a medical breakthrough, biotech companies, things like that. As an analyst, I covered thousands of these businesses. And yeah, these could be really great businesses. My subscribers made money investing in a lot of these businesses through my recommendations. But it's not like the opportunity our viewers have today. Let me tell you a story. One that I think is really going to prove my point. A couple of years ago, I was invited to a private meeting in Seattle with the most prominent tech innovators. Can't divulge many of the details. I signed an NDA, so gotta be careful here. But what I can tell you is he had his eye on recruiting me for a special project he was putting together. He wanted to integrate my money and my money-making model into his business. Now, Farnoosh, you know my background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to make a website, let alone invent high-tech gadgets or create innovative digital platforms like Facebook. And this guy has made tens of millions of dollars doing exactly these things, creating and selling high-tech ideas to powerhouses like Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Still, he eagerly arranged for me to travel and stay, pretty much all expenses paid, one of the most storied hotels in Seattle for 2 days of meetings, which were basically sales pitches asking me to partner with him. It was all because a few weeks earlier, I shared something with him. It's something few outside our circle know about. The wonderful and amazingly lucrative secret of my business. It's not a killer new app, not a cutting-edge device. A few months ago, hey, you could have bought a piece of an Andy Warhol painting. Never been done before, ever. Wasn't even possible unless you knew the guy who owned the painting and he agreed to sell it to you, at least sell a piece of it to you. What I'm offering you now is another first. Never been done before in the history of the financial markets. And I'm biased. I mean, you know this, Farnoosh. But I believe it would be far, far more lucrative than owning a painting. Now, this is important. Right now, I can only offer this deal to accredited investors. If you don't know what that means, you got to have an annual income of at least $200,000 or $300,000 if you're married, or have a net worth of at least $1 million, strictly in the short term. So if you're not an accredited investor and you're still watching, do not shut this off, please. Trust me. The rest of this video is going to be well worth your time. And when the time comes, you know what kind of opportunity you're going to be able to get in on. What I'm talking about is combining all the tremendous upside potential of the security token market with one of the fastest growing, highest margin, most scalable businesses in the world. And I know you know what I'm talking about here, right, Farnoosh?
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it firsthand when we worked together. It's independent financial research.
Yes, so you're talking about Curzio Research itself.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you know me. I'm not an arrogant person.
No.
At least I try not to be. My parents taught me to be humble. I mean, since no matter how much you accomplish or how great you become at something, listen, there's always going to be room to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can get better, and the thing that you can control, is by working harder than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started Curzio Research, we generated close to $2 million in the first couple weeks of starting my business. I brought in millions more since then. And until last year, believe it or not, I didn't even have an office.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to imagine that, but from my own experience, I can't say I'm surprised. This is not a surprise, Frank.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad you're here. I mean, otherwise people would think I'm pretty crazy because we haven't even really begun to grow. And yes, we've grown over the past 2 years, but nothing compared to our potential, where we'll be just 3 to 5 years from now.
And that's what your security token is all about?
Exactly. I mean, I'm not working with my Seattle friend, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to stay independent. And that's why our viewers have the chance that they're going to have right now, the chance to get in on what that guy really wanted access to. We came up in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You started a little more mainstream than me, but we had our intersections along the way. The street was the most obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to forget, but the street wasn't always as mainstream as it's today, right? I mean, Jim Cramer wasn't always a household name. The company started back when no one outside of the upper tiers of Wall Street even knew who Jim was.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say working in the trenches of the street with you, I know what you mean. I mean, just look at how well Jim and the company have done over the years. And it's not just while we were there, but in the many years since. Virtually everyone in the country, world knows who Jim Cramer is. And I mean, I think that's because, well, one, he's brilliant, but it's also because of the reach that he was able to generate at his business. We talked about this before, but just being associated with him, I will say it helped to launch my career.
Yeah, and helped launch my career as well. And I remember he called you a star in our
Oh
field.
my God.
I mean, now look at you, a #1 best-selling book, featured in the Wall Street Journal, you own your own podcast. I think maybe I should be interviewing you here.
I have been on your podcast.
But listen, like I said, Jim was very instrumental in my career as well, and I appreciate that. In fact, if you look at the success of Jim Cramer, having the most widely watched financial TV programs in Mad Money, also one of the most widely followed financial newsletters, it's a great illustration of the growth, at least the growth potential behind that kind of business. I mean, everyone knows who Jim Cramer is now. But it wasn't always that way when he started publishing financial newsletters. It was around back in 1996. And that's when TheStreet.com was created. Their first full year of operations, they took in $589,000 in revenue. 5 years later, they were making $21 million. And 5 years after that, $65 million. It's incredible, right? I mean, looking at 100 times growth in 10 years. And frankly, in our business, as crazy as it sounds, that's not unusual. I mean, it's ironic, really. The ideas we often write about, we often talk about, all these things you can make lots of money investing, certain companies or products, yet probably the single greatest product you can invest in is our business. I'll give you another example, a publishing company called Agora.
Yeah, newsletter readers will know that name for sure, but most others won't.
Yeah, and sure, that's kind of the point here. I mean, Agora started as a single newsletter about how to live a good retirement life overseas. Its founder, Bill Bonner, who is a brilliant guy, wrote the first advertisement for it. For years, many of its divisions were all housed in the same reclaimed row homes in Baltimore. And a guy I work for often recalls how the division he worked for consisted of a dozen people crammed into a few offices on a single floor of one of these buildings. I mean, that was 2004. By 2012, Agora reported revenues of $300 million. By 2014, it was up to $475 million. And think about that, tremendous growth in just 10 years. And a 60% jump in just 2 years, from 2012 to 2014, on a business already making hundreds of millions of dollars. So to put that in perspective, during that same year, right, 2014, News Corp brought in a little bit more than that, about $490 million. And that cable company, News Corp, right, Fox, Fox News, Fox Sports International, FX, National Geographic, and dozens of other channels that they own. I mean, we're talking about,
I mean, everyone knows Fox, right? Everyone knows 21st Century. That's incredible when you think about it, the scale.
I know. And before they became more guarded with the numbers, Agora was listed more than once by the Baltimore Business Journal as one of the fastest growing private companies in the entire city. I'm telling our viewers this not because I think you should invest in Agora. I mean, you can as an individual investor. It's a private company. But it's already a giant company, probably generating over 1 billion sales annually, if I had to guess. What I'm proposing is investing in a company that aims to be just as big, but is still in the early stages of growth. And that's my company, Curzio Research. Think about it this way. If you're a barber, there are only so many haircuts you can give in a day. Even the fastest barbers working the longest hours are capped. The only way you're going to make money, or at least more money, is by owning your own shop. Then what do? You're going to hire more employees. Then you're going to get a piece from everyone who works for you. But even then, you're capped by the number of employees you have and how fast they are. And sure, you keep raising your price and raising your prices, but there is a limit to that, right? And no guy I know is going to pay $1,000 for a haircut. The only way to generate more revenue is by constantly opening up more shops. You know what? That's a lot of overhead. It's a lot of capital. And increasingly, you're taking on more and more risk. On the other hand, with my business, I write a newsletter and put it online. That's my cost. Every new subscriber I bring on, my costs hardly change at all. It's just a matter of setting up that person, basically a password, to my website. And growth is exponential.
Yeah, and unlike haircuts, people regularly pay you $1,000 and more for the work that you produce.
Yes, and they do that because our content, something I'm really proud of, it's original. Like this idea I'm sharing with you today. I mean, I could assure you, almost guarantee you, which we're never supposed to use that word, that not one analyst in the financial newsletter business is talking about security tokens right now and how it's about to disrupt giant industries like investment banking, brokerage firms, real estate, or change the way companies within these industries operate and do business. Now, look, personally, I hopped on oil rigs in 2011, 2012, just to get a better understanding of the Shareholder Revolution. I took 2 planes and a helicopter to a remote site in basically nowhere, Alaska, to see firsthand what happened to be one of the largest undeveloped gold and copper deposits in the world. Everything published about this place turned out to be false. I knew because I was there. I was there in person to survey the site with one of the greatest geologists in the world and also 3 of the smartest resource investors in the world. When I came back, I recommended that stock to my investors. The mining industry, they thought I was insane, but none of them actually were at the site. They didn't see what I saw. And less than 9 months later, that company's stock popped over 900%. I travel around the world to speak at conferences, talk to management teams, visit factories, talk to locals, sample new innovative products firsthand, to get the entire story on every single company I recommend to my subscribers. Everyone says they do this, but I can tell you from experience, they don't. A lot of the guys that write newsletters now, you know what, they don't even write them themselves. Or even worse, publishers will hire some personality with a cult following just to sell more of their product. It's like when I see Charles Barkley, and no offense, I love Charles Barkley, I'm a basketball fan, but when I see Barkley pitching Capital One credit cards, and what does he actually know about banking? The newsletter business had morphed from an industry that was there to protect mom and pop investors, basically from the shady practice of Wall Street, to now becoming even worse than Wall Street. I mean, so much is about hype and celebrity now. At least when you look at Wall Street, they're pretty straight up about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, my point is this. I love what I do. I'll never do anything else. If my name's on it, you know I'm deeply involved. Now, here's why I think Curzio Research has a very good chance to grow tremendously. You can get a detailed breakdown of this, in which our white paper, which you can access through our dedicated site. But here's the gist of it. The most important metrics in our business are revenue per name and return on ad spend. That's how much money you make for every dollar of advertising. The industry standard, the standard revenue per name, is about $12. Ours, $122 over our first 2 years. That's over 10 times greater. Now, what does this tell us? It tells us once people become aware of who we are, they're willing to spend a lot of money to subscribe to our research. So how do they get to know us? That's through advertising. The industry standard, this is the industry standard for return on ad spend. This is after 30 days, is break even. That means they're not making any money at all. And they're happy with that, bring in customers and then be able to sell them or upsell them to other products. Our return, over 700%. Granted, once we really amp up our marketing efforts and get our brand in front of more people, that number is obviously going to come down. But it's still an incredible number. And it suggests we're doing something much, much better than our competition. And I can't stress this enough. Right now, today, I'm giving you the chance to get on the ground floor of what could ultimately be a company that generates well over $100 million in sales annually. And it may not take that long to get there. Right now, by the most important metrics, we have a far superior business model than most of our competitors. But Farnoosh, the best part, it's not a zero-sum game.
What do you mean?
Every company has competition. So if you buy coffee at Starbucks, you're not going to buy it from Dunkin' Donuts. Our industry has competition, but it's not exclusionary. Mm-hmm. I can go on and on about why I think my firm is better than theirs. I'm sure they'll say theirs, whatever. But I have access. I eat my own cooking, which means I invest in my own ideas. I have a great track record. I think all my members would definitely testify to that. Jim Cramer told me this himself. He said he gets great ideas from me, called me the best. But the truth is, people read what I write. They listen to my podcasts. They buy my products. But they're also buying other newsletters. And hey, some of you watching this right now might say, hey, on the surface, I think that's not a good thing. But think of it this way. How many media outlets do you pay attention to? I don't just mean the major ones, Fox, CNN, whatever side you on, we won't get political here. I mean TV, radio, newspapers, websites. And when it really comes down to it, you and I, we're in the information business. I'm not going to pretend people won't get their information from multiple sources. As long as one of those sources is mine, my business is going to continue to grow. And unlike almost every other outlet, people can make real money off of my information. It's original. It's my own research. You get to see me in the field, speaking at conferences, not reporting to you from behind a desk all day. My research is also broken down so that mom and pop investors can understand it. And look, I founded Curzio Research a little over 2 years ago. My goal was to bring all my expertise I had in this industry and do what I felt many of my competitors really stopped doing. Listening to their subscribers, relating to them, bringing them ideas that will mine through a solid network of insiders and well-placed sources, educating them, provide them absolute transparency.
So I'm not going to see one of those little disclaimers on the bottom of your website saying you've been paid. Yeah, it happens. You've been paid to recommend shares of XYZ.
Yeah, never. I mean, I don't take money to promote stocks. I never have and never will. And my job is to make you money, period. If I don't, then you cancel your subscription. I don't feed my family. So I only talk about what I believe in. But more importantly, because I don't take money, the people I associate and all the businesses I talk to and the CEO, they take me very, very seriously. And because they take me seriously, they come to me when they have really great opportunities. I've been able to get my readers in a lot of these deals few people have access to. Those are the kinds of relationships I built in my 25-year plus career. That's the kind of network I have. When you're part of my group, you're part of a network. I like to think of it, pretty much my operations as a VC fund that looks like a newsletter. When I bring you a deal, it's because I really believe in it. I would invest in it myself, and you know what? Often I do. That's something virtually no one in this industry, my competitors, can claim.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I mean, you could have done a private placement yourself, raised money privately. So many people do this from your network instead of through this security token. So why did you decide to go this route?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's for a lot of reasons. For one, as I've been saying, I really believe security tokens are the future of finance, and I want Curzio Research to be one of the pioneers here. Already a number of people in my network have come to me, asking me for advice on how to follow my footsteps. We've been through this entire process. Secondly, and I'm not going to lie here, it's much cheaper to raise money this way than going through the investment banks, which is what I'd have to do if I did a private placement. And to be blunt, I'm not interested in forking over hundreds of thousands of dollars in my hard-earned money in fees, incentives to a bunch of bankers that are really just going to make an introduction to potential investors. I mean, I'm fortunate, but I can do that myself with my network. Third, and this is the most important reason here, guys, it's much better for our viewers. And that's why I'm in this game. With the traditional private placement, your money is locked up tight for years, many years. You can only get it out in one of two ways. If I decide to sell my business or if we go public. And according to PitchBook, a private market analytical firm, we're the best, that takes about 8 years or more. That's a pretty long time to have your money locked up for. But by investing in my security token, which is called Curzio Equity Owners, by the way, there's a lockup period, but it's only 1 year. I'm going to repeat that. Investors in our token are only going to be locked up for 12 months. Then you're free to do whatever you want with it. Of course, I suggest holding it long term, and I'll tell you why.
Well, before we get to that, why the name Curzio Equity Owners?
Because I wanted people to really understand what this is. And you're buying a real equity stake in my business. You're participating directly in its growth. If my company gets acquired at a huge premium, you're an owner. So you will benefit, similar to if a public company that you own gets taken over at a much higher price. And I also intend to pay out regular distributions in the form of a quarterly dividend as we grow, which is why I said I suggest you hold on to that token. But again, you don't have to. That's a big advantage. You can cash out whenever you want after that 1 year lockup period ends.
So just so we're all on the same page, what you're offering today is a chance to invest in Curzio Research, a 2-year-old company that's already brought in millions with plans to grow 50 times that or more.
Yeah, I'm hoping, but you're not just investing in it. You're going to be a partner. Again, when you buy the Curzio Equity Owner Security Token, you're buying a piece of my business, an actual equity stake. Just like investing in the Warhol painting or the movie rights or Manhattan real estate we talked about earlier. And if we ever sell, you're entitled to a piece of those profits. But just as importantly, I plan to pay a dividend to every token holder as we grow. Now look, the money proposition is two ways. One, the security token market explodes. I think that's inevitable. Individuals for the first time ever are getting the chance to invest in assets that were once reserved for the elite. You can literally tokenize anything. Forget about the obscure stuff. If you add up all the global value of real estate, stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, we're talking about a market worth hundreds of trillions of dollars. All of that is on the table. Probably 0.01% of that is being offered right now. The former chairman and CEO of NASDAQ, Robert Greenfield, said it best at the beginning of the year. 100% of the stocks and bonds trading on Wall Street today could be tokenized. And in 5 years, 100% of the stocks and bonds on Wall Street will be tokenized. Just let that sink in for a minute. It's a pretty good source. We're not talking about some millennial making a statement like that. That's massive growth potential. In fact, I challenge you to name another market that has more growth potential than that. Not AI, not cloud, immunotherapy, smart homes, augmented reality, 5G, autonomous vehicles. I can keep going. None of these trends. I should know because I cover every single one of them and got my subscribers into most of these trends during the very early stages. 2, Curzio research grows into what every metric suggests it will. A multi-million, 100 million, perhaps, with a little luck, $1 billion company. Because every $1 billion company does need luck sometimes. What's the difference between where we're at now and that? Again, it's massive. And remember, you're an owner without all the headaches that go along with being an owner. A couple of important points here. First, unlike almost every digital asset out there, you can invest in my security token. The symbol is CEO. By the way, you can invest in this with US dollars. You do not need to convert your dollars into a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum first, which, if I had to guess, probably fluctuated more than 5% in price since we started this presentation. You can if you want to, you have those options, but it's not required. Second, I'm offering a first money in discount.
That's a nice perk. You know, some folks watching this will already get what that means, but lay it out for us so we're all on the same page.
Okay, right. So I put a hard cap on the amount of money that I want to take in. I know it sounds a little funny, especially since most people, most companies in this space, are just trying to raise as much money as possible and don't really think about the consequences. And actually, in most sectors, even public companies do this, right? They offer private placements where they'll look to raise $10 million, but that suddenly becomes $15 million because of strong demand. Now, raising more money, it's a great thing for the company. It's awesome. But as a shareholder, that means you're getting more and more diluted. Yes, most companies are not really going to tell you that. That's not what we're doing here. My goal is to take in only what I need, what I know will help take this company to the highest level, and that amount is fixed. In other words, once we reach that amount, the offering is over. I'm not going to increase it. I'll look to raise more money through this offering because some crazy crypto hedge fund operating out of Malaysia just approached me and said, "Hey, Frank, I want to give you a check for $5 million. No, it's not going to happen. This deal's not me. It's about us. I want us all to make out on this deal. And once we hit that cap, it's over. The deal's closed. And right now, I'm offering a discount of 5%. The list price for our CEO token is going to be $5. If you get in while I'm still offering the discount, you'll get in for just $4.75. To be honest here, depending on when you're watching this, that deal may be closed already. And like I said before, once we're maxed out, I'm shutting the doors for good. So if anyone watching this, if you're interested, I suggest you click that button and get the details right away.
Anything else your new partners can expect? I like that, partners.
Yeah, and this is really cool. At least this is what I think is pretty cool. On top of everything else, you're going to get a special membership. So you invest in our CEO token, you're going to gain access to everything my firm publishes now and any new newsletter we launch in the future. Again, this is a partnership. I'm giving you what any true owner would give his partners. And this all-inclusive membership alone, some of our competitors charge anywhere from $15,000. I've seen as high as $35,000 for this type of membership. You're going to get this for free. It's a pretty good deal considering we have 10 different products right now, focused on everything from small cap venture ideas to option trades to big trend analysis to market commentary. And one of those items is my monthly letter, which focuses specifically on cryptocurrencies and other digital assets. As I said, I launched this letter after the market started tanking on cryptos. I wanted to show people how to really make money in this space, not build on all the hype that was out there. So I truly believe the biggest money to be made are the massive number of security token offerings that are bound to start coming in, and they are starting to come in right now. As one crypto-focused website put it, once mainstream businesses realize how inexpensive and easy it is to raise capital using STO platforms, they will start flocking to this platform. Once this model becomes mainstream, we witness trade volumes move from millions to billions into trillions in the space. As a pioneer in this space, having spent several months making contacts with the biggest players, partnering with the biggest digital securities compliant platform provider, working with some of the best lawyers to merge Wall Street and digital assets the right way, which is not easy, but the way it should have been done in the first place, and to actually launch one of the first security tokens in history that's giving investors an equity stake in an existing company that's generating millions of dollars in revenue and also plans to pay a dividend. I fully expect a number of private deals to be coming across my desk. And in fact, it's already happening. Because to get where we are, it wasn't easy. I wish it was, but it wasn't. And it never is when you're among the first to the party in anything that you do. We have companies reaching out to us right now who want to raise money through tokenization. And they know that we know how to do it. They see all the benefits since it's cheaper. They don't need to pay investment banks, exchanges, lawyers, accountants, those massive fees. But more important, how it's better for their clients who don't have to have their money locked up for many, many years. And for anyone deciding to partner with me today, the security token deals that come across my desk, that means those are the deals that are going to come across your desk. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of them.
Wow. All right. So you mentioned the players, the exchanges. I think that's probably important for people to understand the infrastructure behind this deal. How's it going to all work?
You're right. Because this is brand new for a lot of people, right? But it's really not that complicated. Everything you need to know is on my website. It's called CurzioEquityOwners.com. The link should be right there at the bottom of your screen. The site will tell you how to invest, how it works, the benefits of being our partner, and the answers to some frequently asked questions like how CEO will trade. We partner with a company called Securitize, one of the biggest platform providers in the space. And Securitize recently partnered with the digital currency exchange Coinbase, as well as Blockchain Capital and Ripple's venture arm. They just signed a partnership with IBM. Well, IBM will look to use their platform to help tokenize the $80 trillion corporate bond market. Think about that, $80 trillion. And through our partnership with Securitize, we expect to gain access to these exchanges, plus a host of others. Because every investor in CEO, our token, must register an account, a process similar to registering a brokerage account, and be in compliance with the law. This will make it much easier to get our token listed on the more than a dozen digital compliance stages and those token exchanges that are being launched and expected to be launched over the next 12 months. In fact, 2 exchanges, T0 and Open Finance, are already open for business. And they're open for business in the United States. We'll likely have tons of security tokens trading on them in a few short years. But again, all of this is explained in much more detail on our site, CurzioEquityOwners.com. And even more detail in our white paper, which you can request by going there. Our white paper breaks down all the numbers behind Curzio Research, my experience in this industry, our growth strategy, everything a partner needs to know. I walk you through it step by step and make sure you read everything. I want you to know 100% what you're investing in. And we outlined every single detail.
All right. So sum it all up for us, Frank. Take it home.
Here we go. It's pretty simple. The security token market, it's poised to become one of the biggest markets in the world, if not the biggest. And through security tokens, individual investors, for the first time ever, are going to have access to opportunities once reserved for the rich and well-connected. This includes assets like fine art, marquee real estate, but also companies like mine that make up 90% of businesses worldwide. Before security tokens, our viewers would never have had access or a chance to get in the ground floor of an independent financial publishing firm, which you and I both know is one of the most scalable, highest margin businesses in the world. So right now, Curzio Research is in the very early stages of growth. Companies in this industry regularly make hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We currently average $3 million a year. But by the most meaningful metrics, we're superior to every single one of our competitors. That's why we're looking to raise money, to bring our brand, our expertise, our original ideas to millions of investors around the world. And when you invest in CEO, you become my partner. You have a real equity stake tied to the growth of my business, the way it's supposed to be. You also have very early exposure to the security token market, which is the most revolutionary trend I've personally seen since the creation of the internet. I expect this industry to explode in the years to come. Where you have a front row seat to a number of private security token deals I expect to come across my desk. Deals, if I had to guess, you're probably not going to see anywhere else. So you know what, Furnish? It's really a win-win-win situation.
Could not have said it better myself. Frank, as always, it's such a pleasure connecting with you.
Yeah, it's so great. Thanks so much for doing this, Furnish. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys at home, it's really simple. If you're interested, just click the link below. You'll go to Frank's dedicated website where you'll get all the information you need. Until next time, I'm Farnoosh Torabi. Thank you for watching.